Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
Okay, it's 5:30 p.m. I'm looking for a motion to reconvene our special finance committee meetings to discuss budget.
I will move to reconvene at 5:31.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are now reconvened, and I am going to turn this over to Finance Director Misty Judge for a bit.
Thank you. Real quick. So it is the beginning of night 2. Thank you, everybody, for coming back for another round of budget hearings. We'll do the same approach. So department heads will focus on their 2025 accomplishments, 2026 initiatives, significant changes, and then any personnel requests that they had, and then open it up for whatever questions you guys have. You do have at least one relatively long one tonight with Public Works, which has lots of different divisions. So we'll do it kind of like we did with Finance last night. We'll do a division, we'll pause for questions, we'll do a division, pause for questions. I thought that seemed to flow really well. So on that exact same thing, just different departments.
Okay, let's get the party officially started with Fitrona EMS. We have with us Director Patrick. Yes, there he is. Okay.
And I'll start with the usual. Can you hear me okay?
You're a little garbled.
All right, I will speak up and move my head larger than life with my head there. So thanks for having me up here tonight to talk with you. So significant accomplishments with 2025. Long awaited arrival of our deputy chief, kind of a couple year process of some challenges there, but he actually started the beginning of this year and has done a phenomenal job, hit the ground running, and has actually done some significant on-duty training of all of our on-duty crews, and has really truly integrated both Fitchburg and Verona's fire department into our training, and just continues to excel. Second accomplishment on there is the purchase of an oxygen generator. The state, thank you to the governor and the state legislature, actually last year or 2 years ago for last year, significantly upped the, it's called funding assistance program to all EMS agencies who apply for it in the state. So we got a really significant amount of money from the state on that, and actually got approval to purchase an oxygen generator. That actually, it will save us a significant amount of money. All 3 of our stations right now, we currently contract out for filling out all of our oxygen tanks, both the big tanks in the ambulance, our portable oxygen tanks. One, we become now self-sufficient. We don't depend on an outside agency to do that for us anymore. Second, the cost savings alone, there's a delivery charge to each one of our stations times 3 stations. As you can imagine, that was it's actually almost $35 a week for them to come out and deliver that and pick it up and keep doing that rotation. So it was a pretty significant cost to purchase that, but we are up and running with that, and that all came through some state funding. And then the presentation. There you go. Thanks, Misty. I dropped off there. I was going to try to remember that off the top of my head. This will be our 5th year actually, starting our internship program with Fitrona. So it is just an EMS internship. Lots of fire internships out there, fire paramedic internships. But there's this kind of little niche out there for people who are interested in the field of EMS, but not interested in fire, and they can kind of struggle finding those internships. Again, started that about 5 years ago in combination with Madison College. And really happy this year, our first applicant who actually lives in the Fitrona district. She actually lives in Fitchburg. So she started with us this fall. It's a 2-year program. They get assigned a mentor. They ride up to 72 hours a month. They work with that mentor. This is their first year. They go through all their general education requirements, and the next year they start in the paramedic program. So it's been largely successful, have graduated each one of our interns from in the past, but again, the accomplishment this year, she's actually from Fitchburg. So 2026 initiatives, it's kind of the variations on a theme on there of every year we say, right, increasing our outreach. So made some contact with Centro this year about a month and a half ago, still trying to work out kind of the details in there, but really reaching out to our underserved populations, and getting CPR training, stop the bleed training out there to those populations who we don't always see that show up to our public. We already do them out at the library in both Fitchburg and Verona, once a month in the spring and the fall. We do stop the bleeds again once a month in the spring and the fall, but they're just kind of out there to the general population. And we actually get some really good turnout, 10 to 12, 15 adults there, but still trying to target those populations. So yeah, have met with Centro and trying to coordinate that for that Latino population. We can hopefully outreach to. And then as usual, number one reason for we go out on calls in the county, the state, probably the nation, I'm guessing, is falls. So our Deputy Chief Dostalik, Jeff, that's one of his very tasks is working with the county, working with some of the other agencies. He does lunch and learns, goes out and connects with our facilities where we see a number of falls that occur that we get called to for service. Only about 50% of the times we go out for falls, we actually transport. 50% of that time we do transport, but how do we take that number and actually reduce that? Again, number one cause of EMS calls, not unique to us statewide, but continuing to try to do that fall prevention. There we go. Significant changes from 2025 to 2026, as you have seen here in the last few months, the intergovernmental agreement that forms the Fitrona EMS district got an overhaul for the first time this large since 1977. What that did was actually change the funding structure and the governance structure. So what was entirely a document based on equalized value now is based on a one-third of equalized value population and calls for service averaged over 3 years. So big picture, it tipped the scales. What it did was actually kind of move the equity probably to where it needed to be over the last handful of years. And so it actually moved a significant amount of the proportion of the Fitrona budget to Fitchburg. Fitchburg does account for about 66-ish% of our calls, about 25-ish% in the city of Verona, about 3% for the town of Verona, and then somewhere between 5 and 10%, if that math worked out, that actually occur outside of the district. So you'll see a pretty significant increase in the amount for the city of Fitchburg. That was the largest reason right there of the adjustments for that intergovernmental agreement. The usual stuff that you're seeing in the budget for the city of Fitchburg as well. The increase in the Wisconsin WRS, we belong to state retirement, so actually increasing in that. We removed what historically has been putting some funds into our reserve funding last year based on our external audit. We have met our reserves and actually are sitting a little bit better into our reserves. So we're actually able to remove some of that funding that sat there over the last couple of years to make Fitrona extremely financially stable to moving into the future. And then I'm going to kind of venture into that increased. I'm going to wait about talking about that, Misty, about the staffing. We'll just talk about it right now. So the other increase that you will see in there, in an effort to, if depending on how long you've been in council there, right, has been on kind of that projected budget for Fitrona of we hit about 5,600. We're targeting about 5,600, 5,800 calls this year. We're doing that with 3 ambulances. Kind of industry standard out there is about 1,000 to 1,500 calls per ambulance. So as you can kind of do that math, we're running 3 ambulances. We're right at that tipping point of needing to add more staffing. I believe that the chief's report I sent out everyone to get sent out to you. I tracked the number of times outside agencies are coming into the city of Fitchburg or the city of Verona. Much rarer to be the town of Verona, but about 42 times last year. We're already up to about 35 times this year, where we were completely out of ambulances and our neighbors had to come in and help us out. We are never going to be able to cover 100% of our calls. No agency can do that. So we depend on our neighbors and we do that. However, right, being good municipal partners, the city of Madison is looking at an ambulance as their call volumes go up. Every other agency is looking at adding more staffing as their calls go up. So part of that challenge we have is how do we do that and try to stay fiscally responsible. So one of those options has been to kind of slowly implement this, what I'll call it a peak time truck. Don't necessarily, right, the increase in call volumes doesn't necessarily occur at 2 a.m., right? We know it actually happens between about 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., 7 a.m., 7 p.m. Day of the week really doesn't matter. It's about that time frame. So what we looked at is can we add some peak time staffing? And how do we do that, again, financially responsible? So using our existing part-time staffing pool, we have about 20 part-time paramedics who pick up 1 or 2 days a month. Some pick every other month, and almost all of them have other jobs. But they help us out in filling normally vacation, sick time, and those open shifts. So what I've proposed and looked at the budget here, the mayor has included in her budget is not adding more staffing, but adding more hours to our existing staff. So kind of working with the tax levy limit exemption that special districts in Wisconsin qualify for, have kind of figured out that magic number that gives us about 2 days a week, about 2 12-hour days a week, where we can put a 4th truck in service. Now, lots more logistics to still be figured out of where that goes, what day that is, who staffs that, how do they staff it. But the mayor has put that in her budget to allow us to increase our ambulance service from 3 ambulances every day to 4 ambulances 2 days a week. The long term, it steps into a long getting to a solution, right? In the long term, we need another ambulance, but this will get us there. 2 days this year. Maybe adding additional days every year until we can potentially make that a full-time ambulance. And then probably in about 5 years from now, based on our 5% growth in call volume, which has been 5 to 8% over the last couple of years, 5 years from now, we're going to be looking at additional ambulances on top of that. But this is a start, and this will get us in that right direction to start covering more of our own calls, reducing the response times of our neighbors, getting into our own district. I think that's the highlights. Any questions I can answer for you? I don't know if Misty, you want to talk about the tax levy limit, or if anybody's got, and we kind of talked about that with the intergovernmental agreement.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about it last night as well. So I guess, yes, if there's questions, Patrick and I are both happy to answer them, but I don't know that we need to go into it in detail right now.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me to change my nights.
All right. Well, we can move on then to FACTv. We have with us via Zoom. Oh, yeah.
Are there no questions?
I didn't see any questions. Sorry. Okay, Jeremy, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. First and always, I'd like to always thank my staff for, again, an incredible year. They are second to none and are incredible to keep on doing the hard work that they do each and every day. And, thanks to Scott and Chad on site there tonight, and Sydney if she's there as well. As far as significant accomplishments, I would note up in the statistics that we continue to see viewership growing both in our social media side of Facebook and YouTube. And that's good to hear that we continue to get the word out, continue to use different strategies to reach more people, i.e. one of the redesign pieces that's in there for the accomplishment is to help with some of these things, which this channel Squeeze Back piece allows us to play videos plus show information that's related to the different activities that are happening in the city of Fitchburg. Plus, we're still highlighting different department stuff, promoting FACTv, and i.e. it helps bring in more eyeballs, as we hope. And the reforming of programming and updating of promos, those are major things. You may not see them behind the scenes, but on our nonstop 24-hour-a-day broadcast, both on the government channel and community channel, they look phenomenal. When you turn on that channel, you're getting new content every day on both channels, which is awesome, especially for the staff size that we have and what we can provide our community. And then the citywide communications and communication projects, we are continuing to lead in helping get communications out to the community, both through Talking Fitchburg, helping departments with any of their communication pieces. We identified those 30 ways that the city communicates. We continue to use all of those, and we'll continue to do so into the near future. So again, it's sort of like there's a lot of things that FACTv does. You expect us to be there. We're covering it and get it out so the residents can see it, and that's an accomplishment on its own. Notable initiatives for 2026, we have moved the dining room AV project to 2026. For initiative, the budget for this year and our first stab at quotes for what's supposed to be the Fitchburg room and dining room came over significantly. We had budgeted a certain amount. We're talking, it was, we were expecting the 90,000. It came in at 200,000. So definitely seeing inflation in equipment. So having to move that project and relook at how we want to do that in the future. And then our FACTv marketing and strategic plan, we continue to work through that. And that plan is, if any of the alders would like to come in and talk to me and look at that plan and see how we're moving forward, I invite you to come visit with us on that. Any questions on the accomplishments or notable initiatives? All right. Moving on then, budget changes for 2025 and 2026. We have an increased cost in our cablecast assurance. Goes from $2,400 to $5,200. This would be the full operating system that we use to control our channels, record our content, store our content. Remember that our content, we own our content on this platform. So a lot of people say that we have our stuff out on YouTube and that's where you can watch it. That's a secondary platform for people to watch and interact with what we're doing. Our main content and the stuff we're using for not only to keep as part of the record, but also to use for our broadcasts on demand. And if anybody needs to get a copy of that for requests, that's all housed in this system. So it is a major increase, but we're bound by that company, and that's what we've invested in as far as our behind the scenes costs. And then added 2 Cablecast Reflect apps. So if you didn't know, FACTv already had apps for our TV platforms, Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire. We thought we were getting a mobile app as well, and it turns out after we had done this project a couple of years ago, they did not give us a mobile app. And we have been complaining for the last couple of years on, can you give us a mobile app? And they cut us a deal if we were able to put that app forward. So moving forward, if we're able to have the funding for that next year, we would add that mobile app. And then you would have that right on your mobile phone. You'd click to FACTv and you got us. You don't even have to search. It's just there. And as we know, more people are on the mobile devices. That's no surprise. So we have always been in we want to make sure that we're accessible and everywhere for people to view. So that's why we've had that app in there. And then increased costs in our music library. We had a multimedia library that we were getting at a cost about $350. They came back to us this year and said that we had to change our licensing from $350 to $12,000, and we said no way. So we looked at a music library only. This is copyright free. We pay for the license, i.e. we can have the music and use it for what we want to. And that cost is at a discount in the $500 range or $600 there. And that's that. We're getting a discount with one of our memberships that we belong to. So we picked that one and hopefully sign the contract soon. And then Santa. There has been no Santa for the last couple of years, so we removed the Santa off of and kind of funny to see that come off, but Santa comes still every year, don't worry. Just not on FACTv. Other than that, that's pretty straightforward for me. Any questions?
Questions for Jeremy? Micah?
With the music library change, are you going to have to re-record the intro to every single YouTube video? Am I going to hear something different?
You can ask Scott that question next door there. I don't believe that song was
He's shaking his head no.
Okay, there you go. I hope not, because that would be... But maybe it's time for a refresh. You never know. We just refreshed the show, so, tune in.
Can you stop over at COPA and see if somebody will volunteer to make a nice little jingle for you?
As long as we could get them to sign a contract that it's copyright free, possibly. Not a bad idea.
Any other questions for Jeremy?
Nope.
Okay. You are free to go, Mr.
Thank you,
Crosby. And next up we have City Clerk Tracy Oldenburg.
Yeah, thank you. So our significant accomplishments, we completed 2 elections in the spring, which included 4 alder seats and the Justice of Supreme Court race. We continued to educate voters to use the MyVote website for requesting absentee ballots and tracking them, as well as the other services that MyVote provides. We began hands-on training for 4 new chief election inspectors to staff an existing and a new polling location for 2026. And our noble initiatives, we're looking to change the polling location for District 4, Ward 20, to relocate from Fire Station Number 1 to the Black Hawk Church. This will decrease lines and wait time for voters during busier elections, and Black Hawk Church can accommodate that increase. We're also looking at adding a 7th polling location to accommodate District 2, Wards 9 and 10 in 2026 and beyond. This will decrease lines and wait time at Wyndham Gardens, which is one of the busiest polling locations the city has right now. We're also looking to add an open records request program. The police department uses one, and it seems to work really well for them. Significant changes. We are increasing permit fees to account for the increased cost of providing those services. Our short-term rental application is going to increase by $50. Sound permits are increasing by $15. Street use permits are increasing by $20. And the large-scale special events and festival events that include a sound permit are increasing by $15. We added $11,590 to purchase the records request software program. We increased postage by $500 for the mailing of absentee ballot and pet licenses. Postage rates continue to rise every year. We added election supplies for the 7th polling location. And we reclassified our Municode subscription from the professional service account to software cost and increased that dollar amount from $8,135 to $8,900. And lastly, we increased the LTE, election workers, and overtime hours due to the 4 elections that we have next year and adding the 7th polling location. That's it.
Questions for Tracy? Micah?
No real questions, just happy to add the polling location. I know that when we added the one at Doxa, people were really appreciative of that. So this should be, I would guess, get a similar response. So happy we can add that.
Yes, definitely.
Logan?
All right, I was going to joke with Tracy earlier that I was going to ask you like 50 questions, and then I said, no, I won't do that. I actually do have several questions, so apologies in advance that my joke has come to fruition. So with District 4 polling, Ward 20 polling place moving to Black Hawk Church away from the fire station, will there then be one polling place in every ward or in every district except for District 4? And with the addition of the new hub? One?
Except for District 1.
Okay, District 1 only
District
has one.
1.
Okay. Do we have to pay anything to Black Hawk Church to move it there, or is it kind of a handshake agreement with them, or how does that work?
They charge us a fee to use their establishment for each election. It's minimal. And I think that is under the elections. Actually, No, Black Hawk Church does not. I'm sorry. Wyndham does, and the Catholic Multicultural Center does.
Okay.
Black Hawk does not.
That's good to hear. I was going to ask if moving away from the fire station, it's a good idea, and I also would have been concerned if we had to pay extra when we're already then now renovating that building with the bathrooms, and part of the draw with that was that it's a polling place, so just kind of wanted to make sure I had finished the square on that. As far as open records requests, not counting the police department, how many do you usually go through your office?
We average probably 5 a week, depending on the time of year. In the summertime, we get a lot of building inspection requests, permits. But on average, I'd say we probably average about 5 a week.
Okay. And are they usually pretty complex or pretty simple things that you can kind of turn around quickly?
They can be. We never know, day to day. They could be very detailed, looking for detailed information, emails. So it just depends on the requester.
All right. Yeah, just appreciative to see moving toward software to free up your valuable time for the things that computers can't do.
Yes.
So
yes. Yeah.
Good to see that. So
yeah.
That's all I've got, and apologies again.
No worries. Thanks, Logan.
How are you doing for volunteers now that we have yet another polling location? Do we have people who are retiring, or you get a steady influx?
Oh, yes, we have many volunteers.
Oh,
so, yeah.
That's excellent news.
Oh, yes. Yeah, there's no shortage. In fact, I get a couple requests every day asking if we need help.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I think we can let you go. Thank you, Tracy. Next up, we have the police department with our deputy chief, Matt Leahy.
Thank you, Alder Jetzer, for pronouncing my last name correctly. That's a rarity around here, so I do appreciate that. Thank you, everybody, for allowing me to come speak about our budget this evening. Just jumping right to the significant accomplishments for 2025. Implemented a department reorganization, obviously, as we know that's a recent development. That included ceasing dispatch operations, creating crossover civilian support positions, and adding to the sworn supervisory staff. We also promoted an officer to K-9 handler, retired our previous K-9, and moved our previous K-9 handler to his full-time supervisory position. Research chose and trained K-9 Chico as our new department dual-purpose K-9. Implemented new video redaction software. Completed the new police facility design and participated in the construction bidding process, and saw a significant reduction in shots fired and gun-related calls for service through the first 6 months of this year. Moving on to 2026 notable initiatives. Continue the implementation of the department reorganization. Restart the Citizens Academy. Continue safety and crime reduction initiatives in order to reduce the number of notable incidents in the city, move our evidence management towards accreditation standards, and prepare the department for the move to the new facility by evaluating files and equipment to determine what can be purged prior to the move. Significant budget changes from 2025 to 2026. We increased our records check, fingerprinting, and evidence facility storage fees by $5 each based on increased staff costs to provide the service. Incorporated police reorganization that was approved by our 14925. Added record locating costs to the fee schedule to be consistent with what is listed on the administrative fee schedule. Removed CD and DVD costs for photos and video requests from the fee schedule as we provide flash drives or email links instead. Added $1,900 to the alert media due to expected cost increase. Reduce employee tuition reimbursement by $6,685 due to lower staff requests. Added $8,000 for vehicle repair and tire costs, and reduced our gas budget by $7,000 due to fewer gallons being used than previously estimated, as well as to help cover the increase in vehicle repairs. Increased the equipment replacement reserve from $24,575 to $28,055, mostly due to adding drones and the less lethal launchers to the replacement schedule. And then decrease the MPSIS allocation from just over $200,000 to $158,010 due to the addition of another municipality to the formula. Any questions?
Would you like to talk also about your request for a lieutenant, even though it was not included in the proposed budget?
Sure, I'd be happy to. The request for personnel that we had in 2026 was our second shift lieutenant. We obviously have now one shift lieutenant as part of the reorganization. And this is our track, our next step in getting 3 shift lieutenants across all 3 of our shifts. This would be the second request. Most notable to have a shift commander on shift on all 3 shifts, responsible for directing and coordinating the patrol division. It reduces the span of control, increases communication across all shifts. There's a structural lack of routine interaction outside of emailed communications with command staff and other shifts. So adding the lieutenant would greatly increase department efficiency. And we look to continue to request these positions as we move forward.
Questions for the Deputy Chief? Micah.
Who joined MPSIS?
It was Wanakee.
Wanakee? Okay.
Yes.
That's a pretty significant reduction with the joins. That's
Certainly
nice.
is.
Yeah, good to see.
Thank you, Wanakee.
The reduction in gasoline, is that due to better, like newer vehicles getting better mileage, or people driving less, or?
So what we've seen over the years is we're typically taking from the gasoline budget to offset our vehicle repair costs. So we're just doing it proactively, as well as if we have squads out in the neighborhoods, they typically don't have to drive as far. So increasing our staffing levels on certain shifts will limit our need to drive as frequently to areas of the city. So it's a mixture of both, but mostly it's proactively just to offset those vehicle repair costs, because those are consistently on the rise.
Okay. Looks like we are out of questions. So you are free to go.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we have Planning and Zoning with Deanna Schmidt.
I will start with planning, and our significant accomplishments of this year was completing the neighborhood plans. Very excited about that. We did some zoning amendments to facilitate the city's housing initiatives. We're working towards some major amendments to the SMART code, and then we did a review and analysis for historic properties for the bus rapid transit. The big things for changes in our upcoming budget for next year, there are some fee changes. There's some small fee changes that are related to just an increase in personnel costs, including a small increase in the comprehensive development plan, conditional use permits, the planned development districts, and then rezoning requests. And also, we're just going up a little bit in terms of the zoning fees for the zoning letters. We decreased the public notices a bit. So far, we're running a little bit less than we expected. We thought we might have to do last year some public notices related to the neighborhood plans, and that was not the case. We added a bit more in publications and dues to cover the AICP memberships, American Planning Association memberships, and then AICP. AICP is the professional planners organization at the national level, and both Brad and I are currently members, accredited, and then Dan, our new associate planner, will be working towards his accreditation also. And then we also are proposing another planner to become a member of the Congress of New Urbanism. We added a little bit for training and staff development just to cover some of the increased costs. As I look over our current budget year, just kind of keeping track of programs and educational programs and the different conferences are just tending to go up a little bit. And then Misty helped us with finding a little bit extra money for the comprehensive development plan and the zoning amendment. So that is definitely what we're going to be heading towards for 2026. The main focus will be working on the comprehensive plan and the zoning code changes. So.
Questions for Deanna?
Actually, do you want to talk a little bit about your new staffing request too, even though it was not included?
I do, yeah. So in conjunction with building inspection, I did put in a request for a part-time person to help with administrative support. The planning department, unlike building inspection or public works, does not have any administrative assistance. So that means that our planners and myself end up doing a lot of things like public notice mailings and just answering those basic phone calls and emails where it would be helpful to have some administrative support. So that was the gist of that request.
Dave.
Yeah, ignorance of this question, but the roughly $452,000, for labor to run your department, does any of that ever get back billed to the development or developers?
Well, I think the question is whether or not we, like the Public Works Department, for things that they back bill. No, our fees come, but we do quite well, I think. Misty can help me here, in two areas. We gather a lot of fees just by our planning and zoning fees, whether it's the rezone fees, the comprehensive development fees that you can see in our regular chart. But also, we tend, with each building permit, there's a zoning fee that development pays that is significant. I'm not sure, Misty, exactly, but I'm thinking it's a couple $100,000 a year.
Just goes into the general fund, or does that stay in Deanna's department?
Yeah, so we don't delineate by department for the revenues. So
Okay.
since the expenses are in the general fund, the revenues stay in the general fund. But just to kind of reiterate what Deanna said is we can't double dip. So we can't charge the fee plus charge for staff time on top of it.
Understood.
That staff time is built into the fee is the structure we're currently doing, but there definitely is another way to do it if we wanted to explore that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm pulling up real quick. So page 36 has all of the different revenues on here. And the fees she was talking about, the zoning permits and fees, you can see the average was $358,000 over the past 5 years.
Other questions? Logan.
Just for kind of planning purposes, pun not intended, how long do you think the comp plan and zoning code updates will take? Is that a 26 done project or a 26 into 7?
Oh, definitely 26 into 27. Probably the comp plan will take a good 18 months and then to go through the zoning. I think there's some ways to do some overlap there, but there's probably at least another 12 or so months just with the zoning change.
Okay.
So we also have sustainability
under
Deanna. So let me get there 1 second.
Significant accomplishments for the sustainability budget, well, which was Phil. This was actually a very busy year for him. Sustainability plan was adopted by council, and phase 2 of the Fitchburg B-cycle expansion was completed. We're at the finishing line for the bicycle and pedestrian plan. Implementation and expansion of the city's EV vehicles fleet has been one of his key efforts, and then Phil also supported the sustainability efforts of the new police facility. So this coming year, Phil is really looking to transition to more of an implementation phase for the sustainability plan, and if the bike and ped plan is adopted here very soon, he'll be moving into more of an implementation phase for that also. Then also planning for the Lead for Cities cohort, that participation and application. Hopefully that receives council approval coming up. Significant budget changes is splitting H&I and sustainability apart. So as you might know, H&I will be going into the new community services department. And so that's getting split up. And then we have added an additional $250 to support the bike and pedestrian counter. There's a TELRAM counter that keeps track of how many people are in the area. It's actually located at the library right now. So there's a subscription fee for that TELRAM counter. Then also in terms of the personnel requests here, I did make a request for a step increase for the sustainability specialist to move from grade G to grade I. That was something that was not put into the mayor's budget. And I think that's all my comments there.
Micah.
Do we do replacement funds for the solar infrastructure, or was that just a one-time cost that is there?
So started as a one-time cost. We paid for that when we closed TID 7. And then we had some repairs that were needed, so we repurposed some other funds for it. And then there is $100,000 through TID closure money that has been established to kind of fund a replacement fund, but not ongoing.
That's what we talked about last night, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so not exactly, but kind of.
That's kind of repair / replacement / whatever. Okay, happens with it. Okay.
But still just one lump sum. It's not an amount we set aside.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Deanna.
On the H&I, if you don't mind, just because I was the one that put together the H&I division budget this year with Jessica. And so if you don't mind, I'll just go ahead and do that quick here for Joe. So significant accomplishments. We are very close for the completion of the draft for the Healthy Neighborhood Strategic Plan. So hopefully early in the year, we'll be able to bring that H&I, the Healthy Neighborhoods Strategic Plan, forward to council. We're managing 13 grants for the Healthy Neighborhood Grant Program. And next year, similar to our sustainability team, we'll be moving more into an implementation phase for the strategic plan. In addition to the significant budget changes of splitting sustainability and H&I, we added a $400 subscription to Canva Canva is a graphics tool that is very user-friendly for putting together the strategic plan and other communication graphics. And also added $500 for the initial Healthy Neighborhood Strategic Plan implementation. Happy to answer any questions about the details of that budget.
Questions for Deanna? How many grant applications were there this year?
13.
Well, that's how many got funded, right? So all of them got funded?
Oh, all told, I don't want to misspeak on that. I know that there was maybe a couple that we didn't end up funding. We fund most of them. Yeah.
Okay.
I can jump in real quick. So I don't know the number, but in the statistics section, there is the dollar value of the ones that were requested versus awarded.
Okay. Yep. All right. I guess there's nothing else. We can let you go for real this time.
Thank you.
And we will welcome Miss Jill McCone.
All right. Good evening. I'm going to report on the Senior Center. I'm still going to call it that as we transition to this new title, but significant accomplishments. We developed an ambassador program this year, which has been really helpful to kind of take some of the pressure off of staff to attend outreach events in the community. I think we have about 5. We have a training, they have shirts, and they go out to different areas. And it just having that peer-to-peer outreach actually seems to be more effective than just staff tooting the horn. So hope to grow that in future years. We did install the facility site people counter, which has been really helpful to kind of validate when we think we're busy. We can kind of check and see how many people are coming through the doors, and we can piecemeal that out per time. So right now we're just looking at 8 to 4. I had predicted we'd have about 250 or 40 on average. Last month we were looking at 260 on average through the doors between 8 and 4. So it just really helps to, again, solidify, like, boy, it seems like we've got a lot of people coming and going, and we can check that out. So that's helpful. And I want to be able to expand that to the evenings now that we'll be looking at the rec numbers as well to see how many are coming in and out the doors throughout the evening. With the Commission on Aging Well, we've developed a year-long outreach plan, and we really narrowed the scope of that outreach plan to increase people of color coming to the senior center, and then we scaled it down a little more to Black older adults because Hispanic older adults has a little bit more to it when we're looking at the translation of a lot of things, and it was just too much to handle right now. So we've figured out our deliverables. The Commission on Aging Well members we're meeting regularly outside our regular scheduled meeting, and so I'm pretty excited about that. So that plan will go through next June. We transitioned our newsletter to a publishing company called LPI, which is a lot of senior centers throughout Wisconsin use this company. We had avoided it for a while, but ready to make that change. So now we're getting about 1,200 newsletters in color at no cost, although we did lose the revenue from the sponsorships that we used to gain, but we're still coming out ahead with that. And then we started a social work intern. We had taken a break from interns for a while, but we brought one on board in September. And so she is shadowing the caseworkers, and it's always nice after the first few months that they take on a few outreach calls and friendly visiting, and just it's a good win-win. Already she said, I don't really think I want to be a community social worker. So that's what an internship is about. I said, if anything, you learn what you don't want to do. And so she's been great though, but it's always it's a win-win both ways. Initiatives for 2026, again, complete that outreach plan with the Commission on Aging Well, looking at increasing our marketing materials and translating those into Spanish. And then of course, just kind of getting a handle on this transition of the new Department of Community Services, spending some time on that. So changes, we did take out the $7,200 for supplemental transportation. I was grateful that the mayor had put that in before, but I found that it was very hard to be a transportation manager, which is kind of why I avoided purchasing a bus. It's a lot to coordinate transportation, so looking forward to possibly having expansion of the metro service. Misty, I don't know if we looked up the music license, took that $500 out. The city has plenty of coverage for music license right now with the other two that we currently have. And then every other year, take out $200 for social work licensing. And then lastly, I mentioned the cost of printing the newsletter. So we had $5,300. We took that out, although we were generating $4,500 in revenue, but we were also doing the work to solicit those business sponsors. So right now, LPI is doing that. And from what I have heard, I'm waiting for an actual number. They solicited enough business sponsorships in our newsletter that we actually will get money back. So just waiting to know what that figure might be.
And then your staff request? The additional social work hours?
Right. So with Sarah transitioning to the police department, it occurred to me that when we start recruiting, 20 hours would not include a benefits or even in the WRS system. And so I felt it was important to be able to really increase that candidate pool, to expand those hours to 24, so we could then include that opportunity for them to possibly have a cost share with their benefits in WRS.
You pause here in case there's questions on senior center, and then there's another division.
Logan. All right. Well, Jill, thanks for diving into taking on this extra role, and it's going to be an exciting. I hope you're excited.
Yes, I am.
So, put you on the spot. But,
I'm honored to be asked to do it. It's challenging, and I'm up for the challenge. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think it's gonna be easy, but there's a lot of great opportunities I look forward to looking at.
Now getting into the actual meat of the budget here, on the removal of the $7,200 for supplemental transportation, you kind of touched on this already, but I'm wondering if you could just for the listening public here talk about what the challenges folks face in getting to the senior center and why we had this in here, why it's removed, and the potential benefits of the paratransit and the expansion of Metro Transit and how that all kind of plays into this giant web of getting people to access the services that you put together.
Yeah, so, I pushed really hard to try to get some supplemental transportation for special events, and we looked at maybe doing special programs and doing a limited, like 3 times a week for 6 weeks or whatever. And then the more I thought about it, I have myself and my assistant director who does programming. So us to develop a program, market a new program, and then manage people coming and going, it was just too overwhelming. Then we had a few special events, and we looked at subcontracting a bus after hours for one or during the day, and it wasn't cost effective because if you have 6 or 7 people, a bus is $300. So then we started cabbing people. Well, cabbing people took all of us, our time, to get those cabs, and then cabs came upstairs and people were downstairs, and it's just chaos. Managing transportation is chaos. And so, I have to make a decision where I spend my time, and it wasn't going to be that. So I am looking forward to the possibility of Metro Plus coming as far down as to the senior center for a variety of reasons, that people can have autonomy when they want to come and go, and just do their own schedules rather than us scheduling them. And even we have older adults that want to go to the library, and they'll be able to do that with the Metro Plus as well. So I'm hoping it will take some of the stress off of the senior center of trying to get people where they want to go. Certainly you have to apply. Not everybody, it's not income eligible for Metro Plus, but it's, there's a physical requirement, which a lot of our folks will meet. So I think that will be beneficial, not just for older adults, but for a lot of people in Fitchburg that have, challenges in terms of transportation or any kind of disability.
Your operating cost, is that, where does the heating and electricity for the senior center, is that
Right.
in that operating cost, or is that somewhere, where's that captured? Maybe
I think
Misty
Misty can answer
Misty
that.
can-
That's in Tim's building and grounds budget. So you'll get to hear about that next.
You'll
got you covered.
You'll foot the whole bill. All right, okay.
I do want to, moving forward, look at a lot of those things, breaking them out for when we have evening and weekend rentals and looking at the cost benefit and the expenses of keeping the building open and operating, because it doesn't really truly reflect what our departments each cost to the city. But I am happy to know Tim's carrying the load.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I had a question about the newsletters. So LPI is managing all the ads now. Are they trying to target local businesses?
Yeah.
They are, okay.
Yeah. They start with all local businesses. Obviously, some of those businesses, like an Edward Jones, is a chain, but it's all local.
Okay, cool. All right. I think if there's nothing else, we can move on to the
To
recreation
recreation.
budget.
Yeah, and Adam's going to help with this since he submitted it. And then I'll have lots of questions for him. I'm just kidding.
Appreciate that. All right, well, thank you. So I'll give a brief overview of what our accomplishments are in 2025. And we continue to offer youth and adult recreation opportunities. We offered more than 225 different types of programs. Kind of Jill's point previously about the community center and the usage of it. We did replace all the tables and chairs in the main level of the community center. There probably is a larger conversation here coming in 26 just about how we're using that space. Those are costs that are significant when they, if they're getting worn out because of the usage. But it's a larger holistic conversation of how that space is being used and just what is the cost benefit of that as well. So that's something that I know Jill and I have talked about a few times of just how we're renting that space, how we're using that space, because the more rentals you get, the more wear and tear you get on it, the more it's being heated, the more it's being used, the more it has to be watched over. So not for tonight, just something we're talking about internally. We did host an end of the season basketball tournament for the fourth graders, and then we also increased the number of free pickleball programs that are being offered at McGaw. We partnered with, I think it was Kappa on that, of just having some programming out there for lessons, some round robin times, teaching kind of those skills for people that are looking to learn how to play pickleball. Initiatives for 26, obviously we'll be looking at continuing to offer youth and recreation programming opportunities. I also think it's going to be a time of transition as well, with Jill kind of taking over the oversight of the recreation department. I'm hoping for additional collaboration, obviously, with the senior center. Hopefully getting more seniors and the youth together, possibly grandparents and grandkids together would be a great programs we can look at. So I think it's a good opportunity for us that we'll be kind of taking a look at everything as we go forward here. 26, hopefully our recreation department will also be fully staffed. We did have some staffing shortages during 2025. So some of our numbers are partially down for that reason here. We believe in 25, our advertising or outreach wasn't where it typically was just because we didn't have those staff levels there. Significant changes. We have updated all of our recreation fees. We've increased those again. We've done that for the last few years. We continue to do that. We're not getting any comments from people on that. That's always the concern of if we're increasing fees, increasing costs, are we getting comments from participants? We haven't gotten those yet. So we keep increasing those. They're not large increases, but gradually increasing those. Quite honestly, just trying to keep up with inflation and costs. We did reduce our contractual service. That's the 80-20 program. 80-20 programs are where if a person comes in, wants to put on a program, say for arts and crafts of some type, they get 80% of the revenue. We get 20% of the revenue coming in. So we split that 80-20. All we do for it is to provide the space, and then we also advertise, promote it, let people sign up through our system. And then lastly, we reduced the program expenses just to reflect upon the usage within the department. Any questions?
Micah.
Do you know where the large jump in non-resident users came from?
If I had to bet, I'd say pickleball.
Okay.
That's
Is that the answer to just every question related to recreation?
We were offering those free programs. They run through our system, so you're seeing an additional, I think, 500 people. I think it was 500 this year or last year, but that's where I'm guessing that number is coming from. The majority of it, at least.
And then is the projected revenue increase, is that just reflecting the increased fees? over. I mean, we're projecting the highest we've ever had for 2026.
That's also just backing into some of our numbers as well too. So
Okay.
I mean, that's something I've worked with Misty on. Misty, you want to make any comments on that?
Yeah, so ultimately, we don't want to be conservative on expenses and conservative on revenues. So if we are showing reasonable expenses, we wanted to make sure we showed a revenue number that would meet that same mark. So my guess is they're both a little bit aggressive, and they'll probably both be a little bit less.
Okay. And then one final question has there been any talk about the software that we use for registration or looking at that? And I know that I hear some comments about struggles with the registration software that we use for programs.
We've looked at it. So I most recently looked at it because we had some challenges with some issuance of sound permits. So we operate on a couple different platforms. We use ActiveNet for recreation. We use OpenGov for a lot of our permitting. So if you get a building permit, if you get a sound permit, they don't talk together at all. So as part of that, we had some issues on our sound permit side. So I looked at, can we transition this into OpenGov? They don't offer that. So it's a limited type. There's not as many systems out there that do what our recreation software does. It does our program scheduling, but then it also does our facility scheduling and management as well too. And that includes community center rentals, park shelter rentals. It's where everyone kind of goes to sign up for all that. Ideally, it'd be all in one system like OpenGov. They don't offer it. OpenGov is, I'm biased, but I think it's got a better look and it's easier to use behind the scenes, but they don't offer that as an option. So I think as we go forward here, also working with Jill, I think it's how do we start getting on as similar platforms. But companies that specialize just in that, I don't know how many are out there. It's not as many as there should be. There's a couple other ones out there. I think Civic Plus, who hosts our website, they do something. But I'm also not sure how that works then for rentals. So it's a trade-off on how we do that. But it's stuff we do look at.
Great, thank you.
All right. So Adam, when we look at the recreation program expense, the reduction from 40,000 to 30,000, just to clarify, does that coincide with any changes to the quantity or I don't want to say the quality, but let's just stick with the quantity of programming provided?
No, I mean, that's reflected upon how many people are actually using the program that's provided, ultimately.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Related to that, so you've got an increase in cost to provide programs, but a decrease in program expenses. Can you just say, what two things are we talking about there?
Want me to take that one? So it's important to look at budget versus actual, right? And so the budget number for revenue is, we did a budget amendment this last year too to kind of account for some things, so it's not exactly even, but ultimately at the end of the day, the revenues that we budget need to cover the costs of the direct costs. It does not cover the full-time staff, but it covers any part-time staff, tennis instructors, that type of thing, as well as the expenses and then those 80/20 programs. So the number that's in there as the rec revenue is completely backed into based on what the expenses are that were submitted for the budget. So they are aligned.
Anything else for Adam? All right. I guess we can move on to the well-being fund. Nope.
It's not a separate thing. It's part of the H&I.
Okay.
So we are ready to move on to public works. It is yours. We'll talk soon. It's not a separate budget.
I'll be better prepared next year. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Mr. Tim Volker, Director of Public Works. On to the hot seat.
And get comfortable.
All right, in our Public Works general significant accomplishments in 2025, we resurfaced over 5.5 miles of roadway, We maintained an additional 10 miles of roadway with chip seal, crack seal, and pavement markings. And we repaired sidewalk in various areas across the city. We reconstructed Sain Road from north of East Sherrill Parkway through the McCoy Road intersection. We learned to use streetlight as a new way to conduct traffic studies, and we completed the Fitchburg Road reconstruction design. Notable initiatives for 2026, we plan to reconstruct and repave 3 miles of roadway, maintain an additional 10 to 20 miles of roadway with chip seal, crack seal, and pavement markings, and repair sidewalk in various areas across the city. We're looking to start the design on the County Highway MM underpass project, and we're looking to go to construction for the Fitchburg Road reconstruction project. And then the significant budget changes from 2025 to 2026, we removed $39,700 to reflect our anticipated salt usage and current stockpiles. We added $3,000 to pilot a new GPS software for city vehicle tracking, and then we decreased fuel budget from $76,300 to $71,300 due to the use of electric vehicles. With that, any questions?
Logan.
All right, I'm going to ask a couple questions that are mostly just ways to praise you and your team. So first one, I wanted to drill into the removal $39,700 for anticipated salt usage and stockpiles. We got an update at TTC a while back, I think it was, about some of the proactive ways that you were able to stockpile salt. Do you want to just share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, we did buy a salt calibrator, or weight, this past year, which has helped us calibrate the trucks a lot better. It's cut down on staff time to do those tests. Also, Misty had played a role too in purchasing some salt from the village of Cottage Grove. They had an overabundance, and not only did we save, we typically purchase our salt through the state contract. We were able to purchase it through the village of Cottage Grove at a cheaper price than the statewide contract. So that's kind of why you see our current stockpiles a little more than normal, because that was an unanticipated purchase, but ultimately saved the city money off the state contract.
And then looking ahead to 2026 here, when will we know which 3 miles of roadway? I'm sure there's a lot of people who want to know which 3 miles of roadway will be reconstructed and repaved, and which 10 to 20 will be chip sealed, crack sealed, and pavement marked.
So right now we'll be starting the PACER ratings that are due to WSDOT at the end of December of this year. So kind of as part of that process, it'll help determine kind of the 3 miles of roadway we'll be reconstructing, and then the 10 to 20 miles of roadway that will be chip sealing and crack sealing. So I'd say by the end of the calendar year, we'd have a pretty good idea on what we'd be looking to do for 2026.
Out in front of the Alders homes, though, just so you know that.
We redid my parking lot. It's private this year,
Okay.
so
All right, got that going for you.
don't have to bring that to this meeting.
Bill?
All right, Dave.
The decrease in the gas, do you show the increase in the electric use somewhere?
Yes, I believe, Misty, that's under the utility.
Yep, so
Okay.
the electricity itself is part of the building,
Okay.
but then the excise tax is charged back to the department.
Okay, thank you.
Micah.
Okay. Is the increase in traffic studies a direct result of implementing streetlight as the way to conduct traffic studies? Does that allow Ross to be more efficient in completing those?
Yeah, so prior to us purchasing the streetlight software, the city had, I think they're called, I forget the name, Ross calls it, but it's a device that we actually have to go out and set up. So we'll have to go out into the field. It's staff time, 1 or 2 people to attach it to a light pole, a street post, something out in the field, kind of figure out where to place it. Where with the street light, Ross sits at his desk, can pull it up at any time. We don't have to then take it down also. So it saves significant staff time is where we're seeing the savings there. And it allows Ross to kind of get the data out a lot faster. So, you don't have to set up these devices, wait 2 weeks to get data. Data's readily available at the fingertips. So we get a request and he could have it out that day if his workload allows it versus, hey, my workload's heavy, it'll be a week till I set it up, it'll be 2 weeks till we get the data, and then I got to take it down. So it could be a month before we get back to a resident. Now it could be days.
Dave.
Just to follow, did he use that on that excellent work he did figuring out the problem with the timing on Seminole and McKee Road?
Yeah, I'm sure he used it in his analysis of that.
Yeah. Well, that council's aware, but I had residents, they complained, they just didn't feel like the timing was right at Seminole and McKee. There were backups and asked Ross to look into it, and eventually he found a problem that was been there really since we redid the intersection. So really appreciated that on his part.
A couple more streetlight things. Is any of that streetlight data just like publicly available? Is there an opportunity to stick it on a GIS map or something?
I don't know if he's played around with it that much to see if it could be a public facing, but at some point I think he could look into that, and maybe it's just the reports that get processed from it that we could post. I'm not quite sure if it could be a public facing thing.
Okay. And then is that strictly based on motor vehicles, or is streetlight data available to tell us how many people are using our trails and paths and sidewalks?
Yeah, I don't believe trails, paths, or sidewalks are included. It's strictly motor vehicles.
I think, if I remember hearing, it can't use cell phone data. It has to use car GPS data, like OnStar data.
I had heard that,
so,
but then I thought I had heard that they were still using cell phone data, and I wasn't sure what the actual truth was. Okay. If there's nothing further on Public Works, I guess we can move on. We're going to go to Parks.
So this is back to me. So ultimately with the restructure, next year Tim will be overseeing the Parks manager. That position currently is, we received applicants and we're in the process of interviewing applicants. So that's moving forward here. So key accomplishments for the Parks Department in 2025 was including the, hopefully, completion of the hub project up on Traceway, the Stoner Prairie Park improvements, and the McGaw pickleball court expansion, which has a ribbon cutting tomorrow, I think at 3 o'clock. So if you're available, I would encourage you to attend. We also had the reorganization of the department due to the Scott's retirement as well. So initiatives in 2026, it's going to be bidding and installing the new Kids Crossing playground. We're looking at replacing park rules signs. Some of our signs are out of date, so we're looking at that as a larger project. Removing the McGaw tennis courts, and then increasing repairs and maintenance to the existing facilities. Other projects we have going as well in 26 include Southdale Park, completion of Chicory Meadows, the tennis courts and new pickleball courts and basketball court, and then also the replacement of the Swan Creek tennis courts. Changes in the budget from 25 to 26, similar to some other areas. We made the forestry budget a standalone division outside the parks division. It just makes it easier from a budget and tracking standpoint. We increased our golf course maintenance cost by $1,000 due to contract requirements. Increase in the medium mowing and maintenance that went up due to contract changes. We have next year is the last year of the contract on those, but there are increases due to that contract. We increased the funding for weed control from $3,000 to $5,000, and that's based on actual costs. That's used for athletic fields, City Hall, and then Gorman Wayside. We added $1,000 for porta potties at the Memorial Day event, and then also looked at kind of how we use our porta potties here and throughout the city. We increased funding for paper products and shelters. That's something we haven't adjusted for a while, and we've continually gone over for that. So that was increased. That's toilet paper and then paper for drying hands as well. We increased our splash pad license. That's a requirement, so that went up. We added $1,000 for door access control repairs. We have some of our doors are starting to fail on our shelters, so we added some funds for that. We increased our funding for electric from $43,000 to $62,000. That's due to actual costs and the use of electric vehicles. Most of that is due to actual costs. That's an account that we've been running behind on, I think, for the last 3 or 4 years. So there was a significant change to that because every year we've been over in that for the last 3 or 4. So we upped that significantly, and that's based upon what's actually coming in. Decreased our fuel cost. That's due to the electric vehicles. And then we also have one LTE parks maintenance position in here for the summer, another summer employee. This employee would most likely be in a mower. We had some challenges this summer just with mowing operations. It was a wet summer. We had a very difficult time keeping up, and we had, I think, at least 2 of our full-time employees who spent the vast majority of their summer mowing for us, which is not the greatest use of their time. We do have some spare mowers down at the shop, so I believe the intention is this would not create any type of need for additional equipment. We would use some of those old mowers and throw one of these summer employees in that, and then redirect our park staff to hopefully doing something more possibly more productive with their skills and talents.
Adam, I'm sorry, you might say, what is the splash pad license? Are we paying a license fee to the
state of the county? So
the
it's
county?
one that, so it's treated as a pool for how it's been built. So it's a license that we have to obtain to be certified. I believe it's inspected by the county, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But they notified us that it went from $550 to $1,150. So.
Logan. So I'll piggyback off of Alder Herp's question there then. If we are looking to add some sort of spray feature to Southdale Park in 2026, do we anticipate needing to add another splash pad license for that? Or is that whatever the water feature design, are we going to try to design it in such a way that it's a community asset, yet it kind of sneaks under the definition of splash pad?
So we're starting that design process right now, and one of the first questions I've asked the consultant is, what's the cost of the splash pad or the spray feature, but more importantly, what is the operating cost of it? The difference of what we're looking at in Southdale versus what's in McKee. McKee is a recirculating system, so basically the water is being recycled throughout. That's that big kind of barn on the east side of there. Inside there's a big tank, and the water gets recycled through like a pool in essence. Southdale, the system we've looked at is called a flow through. The water gets pumped in from the pipes, it sprays out, it goes down the drain, and goes to the utility, the MMSD, to get cleaned. The larger conversation we're going to have as part of that is, if you're looking, even contemplating something like McKee, I mean, you're talking, we have nowhere near the budget for that. Something like McKee in Southdale is going to be at least $750 to $1 million. A flow-through system, you can probably get something possibly for $150,000, but that doesn't account for the operating costs. And that's something we're trying to get numbers on right now. What is going to be the water cost out there, and what is going to be the usage cost out there? Because as we design it here right now and then bid in 26, we're going to have to build that into the operating in 27, because it won't be open in 26, but it'll be open in 27. So those are all fun conversations we'll be having.
Well, I appreciate you having them. One other thing I wanted to just kind of say thank you for was increasing or adding that LTE position for mowing. I know I've heard quite a few comments about the challenges of getting things mowed, especially medians and plantings, Terra Vesta specifically with some of the natural plantings. So I think that will be an asset as long as the weather cooperates.
Any other questions for parks?
just one more comment on parks in general, just to give a fair warning, I guess. And like Tim will be obviously overseeing the department, but our shelters and everything are getting older. I mean, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. You know, there's going to be significant repairs and investment we'll have to make in the future here, and probably tough decisions, unfortunately, just in parks as a whole, because we've got a lot of facilities that were built 15, 20, 25 years ago, and they're all hitting that age where we either have to fix them or we got to have make the tough calls. So it's a problem not for today, but just it's going to be a dilemma for us as we look at these, because they're all hitting about that age. They were built late 90s, early 2000. We had that big building boom. A lot of those now are kind of coming to age of what do you want to do with them? So a lot of the increases we talked internally here this year, quite honestly, were for maintenance and just how do we upkeep what we have and hopefully make it last as long as we can as well. But just something to keep in mind as we always talk about parks and any type of expansion of city facilities is they don't get any cheaper.
And we have talked too about with the new manager getting like a proper inventory done too, right? Like,
Scott had a good start on that. Yeah, Scott had a good start on that. I think it's a matter of picking up where Scott left it and just seeing where it's at.
Okay. One other question, I guess, on the lifespan of the shelters. Why is it, when you say they're, when they hit 20 or 25 years, and we have to make the decision to repair or demolish?
A lot of that's play structures, to be honest with you. So a lot of that is going to be your play structures, your slides, your whatnot, and those are made of plastic typically.
Okay. So I thought you were talking shelters.
All the above. Any amenity you have there. I mean, shelters as well. I mean, we've got Hugel Jamestown. We're going to be looking at a possible budget amendment here to make some repairs up there, and it's not big stuff. It's chipping paint. It's some wood rotting or some mildew coming in that you either need to get ahead of it or you have bigger problems in the future. So it's stuff like that of just, you need constant maintenance of this stuff. And, it's just, we have to keep up with that. And some of the stuff, maybe we haven't been as aggressive as we should have been. That's, just stuff we need to bring forward to the council and make you aware of it at least.
How are we planning for that? Is most of that stuff in the CIP, or is that, is it replacement funds or just operating costs? Yeah, so the playgrounds itself are included in the CIP. Mm-hmm. There isn't an inventory of it, but it is a replacement fund. It just goes up by $1,000 each year. But we don't know if that's the right dollar amount or not, but there is something at least established. The shelters, there is a separate replacement fund set up for those, and that does have an inventory and all of that included in the CIP. Okay. All right, moving on. Let's tackle forestry.
Okay, I'll go again. Once again, we split this out of the parks budget. Now it's in a standalone division. Accomplishments here in 2025 included a canopy renovation in Chicory Meadows Park with the Million Trees grant funding. That was a grant that we received. We partnered with the Urban Tree Alliance to begin planting in our healthy neighborhoods. That program has gone very well for us. We're very happy how that's gone. We planted trees in Southdale, Maple Lawn Heights neighborhoods, as well as Traceway, Hugel, Jamestown Park, and that was with the grant funding again. We're in the process of completing our strategic urban forestry management plan, and then we completed a draft wood lot management plan as well. Looking towards 26, we're looking at replacing our remaining ash trees on streets and in parks. So that is on our horizon here, so we're hoping to get through that as soon as we can. We're going to be implementing our urban forestry management plan and then also continuing to plant trees in parks and terraces for new developments. And then significant changes again here. We moved it to standalone division, the functions that were in the parks into the standalone division of forestry. And then the city forester is looking at an iPad for forestry work orders and tree inventory work. This is something we've actually already started with Dakota and our GIS in our IT department. And our parks maintenance staff has also started transitioning towards that. It's a nice system where when a tree needs some type of maintenance, whether removal or whether trimming, they can actually mark it on the map on an iPad and then put notes in there, take a picture of it. So the previous system we had was just a paper system. So we're trying to get off the stack of paper work orders and trying to get to more of a management work order system with the GIS. So optimistic that'll go well. We've had some few hiccups with it, but we're trying to make our time more efficient so the staff and crew can actually look at an entire area instead of trying to flip through papers and organize it by sections. So, any questions?
Let's see, is there any change to the Prairie Longgrass Burns maintenance? Is that 23,000 new money or just eyeballing that here? It's 290.
Yeah, I believe that's been shifted over from a lot of those funds. It may have gone up a little bit from where it was this year, but that is just shifting over what was in the parks area. That was lumped into the larger 290 account for parks the previous year, but working with Anna, that was a number she felt comfortable with.
Okay. I trust her judgment, and she certainly brings in quite a bit in grants that I want to just acknowledge as well. With I know one of the tree plantings we did earlier this year was entirely grant funded as long as it was volunteer labor, which we had quite a few volunteers as well. So keep up the good work.
I will say she would say she'd take more money because obviously there's always more areas we could do, but yes.
And Adam, can you tell us, how has our planting strategy changed over time? For instance, we know emerald ash borer, just in terms of the diversity of the trees, have we increased the number of different species we're planting over the years or decades?
I don't know. I know we've gotten better. I know if Anna was here, she could give you a real great answer. I know we have a variety that we put in. We don't put in, 8 of the same trees back to back to back to back down the street that you typically saw, 20 years ago. You're seeing a diversity of species. I know she has a list that she kind of signs off on and approves as well. That ones are suitable in whatever locations. So it has improved. I mean, it's only improved though until the next beetle, bug, blight, whatever else is going to take out whatever it might be. But if we have a strong enough diversity, it only takes out 5% of the trees instead of 30%. It's very diverse. I mean, I've walked around and looked at some of the trees she's planted, and I mean, there's times I go, oh, I haven't seen that one elsewhere. Oh, I haven't seen. You kind of, as you look, you don't typically see the same species, at least in near proximity to each other. At least that's what I have casually observed. So I know
Mike is on the tree committee. Maybe he'll say something.
I can. I know we just replaced the last of the ash trees in the parks. There's still ones on the streets, but I think there were, I don't know the exact number, but I think there were 15 different species that they replaced, 50 or 60 trees. So it's a pretty diverse assortment that they're doing now. Yeah.
All right, if there's no more questions, I guess we can move on. Refuse and recycling.
Significant accomplishments in 2025 for refuge and recycling. We added plastic film recycling opportunity for residents with collection available at City Hall and the community center. Plastic film recycling was also made available at the recycling drop-off site. We explored options for increasing diversion of organic material and food scraps from the landfill. And then notable initiatives for 2026, we look to implement a food scrap collection location at the recycling drop-off site. And then significant budget changes from 2025 to 2026. There were some fee changes. The solid waste increased from $232 to $236 per unit, which was a 1.7% increase. The brush charge increased from $725 per unit to $735 per unit, which was a 1.4% increase. And then we increased the refuge collection from $655,350 to $704,880 to reflect added customers and rates outlined in the 2025-2029 solid waste contract. And then we increased the recycling collection from $344,640 to $369,260 to reflect the added customers and rates outlined in the 2025-2029 solid waste contract. And then we increased yard waste collection from $119,000 $50 to $128,780 to reflect the added customers and rates outlined in the 2025-2029 solid waste contract. And then we increased the brush collection from $202,390 to $218,670 to reflect the added customers and rates outlined in the 2025-2029 solid waste contract.
Any questions on refuse and recycling? I had one. So the numbers you gave are like, I don't know, 5 significant figures, when we're talking about the increases in the amounts due to additional people moving into the city. What numbers are we using to gauge that? Is that based on the numbers we get from the Department of Administration with our estimated population count, or is that more based on new housing starts?
I believe it's based on the new housing starts in the city. We kind of have a handle on the phasing that's coming in from the new developments,
Okay.
Hartung, Terra Vesta. So we kind of can anticipate, those number of lots then coming in the following year.
I do have one.
Sure.
For brush collection, we pay per, I assume a unit is a household. We pay that whether or not someone has brush collected or not. Is that just a flat rate, or is that based on who actually uses the service?
Are you talking the brush charge, the $725 that
Yeah.
increased to $735?
Yeah.
So that's actually for the apartments in the city, where the city actually picks that up, not Pelletary.
Okay.
Resident brush collection is included in the solid waste charge,
Sure.
along with recycling.
Okay.
Okay. We can move on then to the cemetery.
That's me. Cemetery is a non-levy fund, so this is the money in this fund is strictly from sales of lots or plots. We sell about 20 plots each year. As of right now, we've got about 400 plots left out there. Accomplishments in 2025 was we maintained the cemetery, and we are in the process of replacing the existing sign out there. The woodpeckers got to it and put a lot of holes into it, I'll be honest with you. So we're replacing the sign because the woodpeckers destroyed it. Changes in 2026, we're increasing our fees out there. This is when someone buys a plot, that's the only time they pay us. So there's, from that point forward, whenever they go into the ground, the one time they pay us money is when they actually buy the plot. So we continue to maintain the property over time, but there isn't any, if we stop selling plots tomorrow, there's no additional revenue coming into that account. And so that's just, as you see the fees in here, just to make you aware of it, there's no ongoing cost when someone purchases a plot. We are looking at increasing those fees. We've added a maintenance line item in the budget that wasn't in there this past year, and obviously we ran into the sign issue, and there'll be a budget amendment moving forward for that, just so we have the money budgeted. So trying to establish at least some funds as a baseline out there in case something comes up, whether it might be the sign or some other maintenance activities. And then finally, we increased the weed control from $200 to $1,200. Weeds are a problem out there. This time of year, bees are a problem out there, which we don't do much with the bees. Rodents are a problem out there. We've got a lot of ground squirrels that like to live there. So it's, we have no plans on dealing with that, but it's out, it's out in the country. So it has animals and critters living in it. So any questions about the cemetery?
Seeing none, I guess we can move on. That was very timely. It's October. Halloween.
Let me know if you want a tour.
Yeah. We move on to transit.
Significant accomplishments in 2025 for transit. We completed the transit plan update for 2025 to 2030. We installed 7 new bus shelters at the most used bus stops without shelters. We continued the bus rapid transit design and permitting for 2028 service. And then notable initiatives for 2026, we're looking to expand service on routes 65 and 75 to all-day service, both weekday and weekend. Approximately hourly service would be added from about 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and after 6 p.m. In addition, the endpoint of Route 65 would be extended from the corner of Lacey Road and Research Park Drive north to Triverton Pike at McKee Road. Paratransit service is included in this expansion, which would be approximately 0.75 miles from the bus route and for the same hours that the route runs. And then we're looking to extend Route B from its current endpoint at Cahill, Maine to Triverton Pike Drive at McKee Road. This would serve McKee Farms Park and allow east-west travel through the city via Route 65, which is also being extended to Triverton Pike at McKee Road. Paratransit service is included in this expansion, which would be within 3/4 of a mile from the bus route and for the same hours that the route runs. Then we're looking to also continue the BRT design and permitting. Significant budget changes from 2025 to 2026 for transit. We increased the state aid from $1.3 million to $1.5 million to reflect an estimated reimbursement rate of both the current and enhanced transit service. The exact amount of state aid is unknown since the formula includes a prorated share of a pool of funding available for all providers across the state. We added all-day service on routes 65 and 75 and extended Route B to McKee Road for an additional $350,000. And then we increased the budget by $80,000 to account for Madison Metro Transit's higher hourly and per mile rate per our intergovernmental agreement for 2026. Then we also included a table kind of summarizing the service. So we have a column for the current weekday existing service for the routes 65 and 75. And right now it's just a peak hour route. So from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. it runs every 30 minutes. And then after 8 a.m. it's done and doesn't come back till 3:30 to 6:30 and runs for 30 minutes. And then with these proposed changes, the weekday proposed service would be an all-day service from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. It would still keep that during the peak hours, that 30-minute service, but then we'd provide hourly service in between from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then back when it's peak, we would do the 30-minute service. And then currently there's no weekend service. With the proposed changes, we would now have weekend service from 6 a.m. to 12 a.m. hourly.
Questions for Tim? Micah.
So for the expansion of 65 and 75, that 350 is for the entire year, correct?
Correct.
But we were recently told that Metro couldn't actually start this until August. Is that correct?
Yes.
Even if we do go forward with it? So that means we would only end up actually paying about 40-ish% of that amount for the year. Is that correct?
Yes, however, I'd like to jump in real quick. Because the funding for this was primarily that new vehicle registration fee, we wanted to show a year's worth of cost so that we made sure that it was a sustainable funding source going forward. So yes, if it doesn't happen right away as of 1/1, there will be some additional levy funding available. It will sit in the mass transit fund and then be available for when there's overages other times. But we also then won't get the state aid. So state aid covers 65% of that. So the net amount, the 35% is our estimate. That's the amount that actually would be levied but not needed yet.
So state aid is covering 65% of the 350?
Correct.
Okay.
Ish. That's our estimate, is the 65%.
Sure. Okay.
Logan.
That was the question I was going to ask, and then it jogged another thought in my mind as well. And Misty, you said last night, correct, that the money that goes into the vehicle registration fee bucket doesn't have a deadline at which it has to be spent. So we could hold it for a year or two. Not that I want to do that, but it is not statutorily prohibited, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. And so my thoughts are, because we started collecting that money already this year for a portion of it. So my thought is we would, again, let it sit in that fund, and then that would be available for projects in the future when things don't go our way and there's cost overages. And I would like to correct, if I may, so it's not 65% in the budget. We are guessing 61.2%. So still don't know, but
Perfect.
different.
And if I remember correctly, earlier in this document, the mayor had a line item for about $230,000 to fund the expansion, and this says 350. Can you reconcile that for us?
Yep. So the 350,000 is the expense that we'll pay to Metro. 61.2% of that we think will get reimbursed from the state as state aid. The number that was in the mayor's list is the total increase in property taxes for the transit service in total. So our current service has increased costs as well, and then the enhanced service has those additional costs.
So that's the current levy increase, the part that the city taxpayers will pay. Is that 230?
Exactly. Yep. So in the stat section, we've got the property tax support. So you can see we're going from 721,000 to 950,000.
And for this, will the 75 have a stop south of McKee at Triverton Pike to meet up with the B and 65, or are people going to have to cross McKee Road if they want to get from one bus line to the other?
I believe the B meets up there already at Triverton and McKee.
I don't know. Right now, the southern terminus for the B is up by Cahill, Maine. So we're going to extend that down to...
That's being extended down...
to Triverton Pike,
yes.
as is the 65. But is the 75 also going to... Because right now the 75 comes down Fish Hatchery Road and it heads west on McKee Road.
McKee.
So if people want to get... if they take the 65 to Triverton Pike and they want to jump on the 75 to continue west, will they do that on the south side of McKee, or do they have to cross the road?
They may have to cross the road.
That's my understanding from our conversations at TTC as well. Not that it's the answer I was hoping for. But.
Yeah. And so, there's no signal at Triverton Pike, so people would probably have to walk over to Fish Hatchery Road and cross there with the signal. Is that shelter on the north side of McKee? Is that going to remain in place?
Yes.
For the 75? Okay. And then I guess, are we planning on adding a shelter at Triverton Pike, or we're going to wait until the BRT, all the plans are done for that?
I believe we're going to wait till the BRT.
Okay. So no concrete pad or anything? It's just whatever people stand on the side of the road or in the terrace?
It's something we could look at, installing a temporary concrete pad till the BRT comes online.
All right, anything else for transit? All right, moving on, vehicle registration fee.
Significant accomplishments in 2025 for the vehicle registration fee. We share information about the new fee and responded to questions. We enacted a new vehicle registration fee at $40. We implemented the new fee in coordination with the State Department of Transportation. Notable initiatives for 2026, we're looking to spend the fee revenue on eligible transportation expenditures, work with elected officials to determine the priorities for the property tax funding previously spent on eligible transportation expenditures. Then the significant budget changes from 2025 to 2026 for the vehicle registration fee. We created a new fund to track the vehicle registration fee revenues and eligible expenditures. We added $1 million in estimated annual vehicle registration fee revenue, and we added $1 million in expenditures on the street resurfacing program, which is CIP number 3319. Additional street resurfacing funding remains in the capital projects funds paid with property taxes, grants, special assessments, etc.
Questions? Go ahead, Micah.
Is all of the 2025 money that we've collected in this fund that we created already?
Yes. So my plan is to put all of it there, so it's really easy to report back that we followed the required spend down.
Great.
Anything else? All right. Then we can move on to water and sewer utilities.
Significant accomplishments in 2025 for water and sewer. We completed the design, release for bid, and awarded well number 12 pump house, SCADA improvements, well number 7 and Swan Creek, pressure reducing valve modifications, Camp Badger reservoir improvements, Cyene Interceptor Phase 2, and the Belmar water main replacements, which we ultimately rejected the Belmar bids. Completed drilling of well number 12, installation of 1.5-inch and 2-inch Badger ultrasonic meters, development of unidirectional flushing program, replacement of water main under the Nine Springs Creek crossing on Fish Hatchery Road, and installation of the Cyene Interceptor Phase 2, as well as began construction of the well number 12 pump house and Tower D. We installed the water and sanitary sewer for Highfield Phase 4, Terra Vesta 4th Edition Phase 2, Olive Tree, Uptown Hills, Oak Meadow Reserve, and Jamestown. Notable initiatives for 2026, we're looking to complete the design and release of bid for the Belmar Tower Hill water main replacements and Goodland Park sanitary sewer water main improvements. Complete construction of the well number 12 pump house, SCADA improvements, well number 7 and Swan Creek pressure reducing valve modifications, Camp Badger reservoir improvements, Tower D, McCoy Interceptor, Badger lift station replacement, Tower D bulk fill site, Belmar Tower Hill water main replacements, and Goodland Park sanitary sewer water main installations. Looking to also complete the identification of all unknown water service materials, and looking to install water and sanitary sewer for Terra Vesta 5th Edition, Highfield Phase 5, Holmes Phase 1, Nine Springs 8th Edition, and Thermo Fisher. And then we're also looking to file a simplified rate case. And then significant budget changes from 2025 to 2026. For water, we increased the maintenance to wells below ground by others by $60,000 due to emergency pump assembly repairs. We increased power purchase for pumping by $25,000 due to increasing electrical costs. We decreased the well house maintenance by others by $12,000 due to no planned projects. We increased the maintenance of water treatment structure by others by $9,515 for well 4 floor and wall repairs. We decreased maintenance of reservoirs and towers by others by $7,000 due to less needed repairs identified for 2026. We increased maintenance of transmission and distribution maintenance by others by $30,000 and maintenance of transmission and distribution repair supplies by $5,000 to account for valve manhole adjustments removed from CIP and added straight to the operating budget. Increased maintenance of meters by others by $6,000 to pay for any 1.5 and 2-inch meters that still need to be replaced in 2026. Increased maintenance of hydrants by $5,000 due to additional hydrant extensions needed. Increased maintenance of miscellaneous plant by others by $9,000 to rekey all facilities after well tower work is completed in 2026 and for required water service verification. And then we increased professional services by $19,000 to pay for additional services needed throughout the year. And then for sanitary sewer, We increased other operating supplies and expenses, includes the MMSD by $364,500 due to increasing MMSD treatment costs. We increased meter expenses by $27,000 due to increased joint metering expense. Increased maintenance of collection system by others by $60,000 to account for additional televising needed to meet our goal of 10% per year for laterals installed as part of improvement projects and for manhole adjustments removed from CIP. Decreased maintenance of collection system by $24,000. Manhole adjustment costs for resurfacing added to maintenance of collection system by others above. Increased maintenance of lift station number 1 by others by $17,400 due to increasing emergency costs as the station ages. Increased maintenance of lift station number 1 Terra Vesa by $11,400 for chemical additions to control grease. Decreased accounting and collecting office supply postage by $14,000 to remove the census annual MSMS costs, which is half funded by water, which should be under computer-related repairs, maintenance, and subscriptions. Increased computer-related repairs, maintenance, and subscriptions by $10,410 to account for half the annual census MDMS costs, half funded by water and other small changes to expenses, and then decreased professional services by $16,900 to remove costs for sewer rate study to be completed in 2025 and not needed in 2026. And then in utilities, we did add a utility maintenance worker, and that wasn't included in the mayor's proposed budget.
It was.
Was.
Yes. Yep.
Dave.
A couple questions, Tim. The Badger Reservoir, what do you got planned there? So the upgrade or something there?
I believe there's some piping modifications included in that. Tracy would have the specifics.
Okay.
I can provide an update at Board of Public Works.
I'll talk to her. Second, on this position, I have a large staff of hourly workers that work for me, doing field work. And I would just add they've been more amenable to working overtime since they get to keep more of it now. What's the driver of this, or did we ask our group, would you be, instead of adding a person, would you, are you guys interested in working more overtime to take those hours? I don't want to get into telling you how to run your group, but that's a question I would have asked, I guess.
Yeah, so right now, our staffing and utilities, we have a staff of 6 people. So we have the supervisor, and then under the supervisor, a lead worker. Then we have a locator. So the locator's 24/7 locating stuff. So that kind of takes that position out from any repairs, any new installs. So that really leaves 3 maintenance workers to work on stuff. And what we do with our sewer, we have about 100 miles of sewer in the city, and we clean a third of that every year. So that takes 2 people with a vac truck to clean 33 miles throughout the year.
You've answered my question.
Yeah.
That's enough said. Thank you. I had to ask. Okay.
I have one quick question. Is the increase to MMSD treatment costs, is that a number that's just dictated to us by them?
Correct. So MMSD has, their budget increases, and then it's kind of a pass-through from the city to the residents.
The increased maintenance for lift station 1 in Terra Vesa, it says due to emergency costs as the station ages, but that station is only, 5 years old?
Yeah, I don't know the exact age, but what we had this past year, I believe there's 3 pumps in there, and what happened with the influent pipe coming in, I don't know if it was a rock or some kind of debris got in there and jammed up the pump. Since then, what we did, we repaired the pump, and that was costly. That was $10,000 to $15,000, I think. what we did, we put installed a little kind of catch cage at the in. What we have to now do is empty out that basket that catches all that debris, but that will prevent anything from happening. But with the pump kind of going down, it's like, hey, this station is eventually going to be aging, so we want to start putting money towards that as that.
I was against, most of my time here, and Terra Vista, they had to put in a lift station, otherwise it would have been, I don't know, as many millions to go through a ridge, and so they made the decision. What I advocated at the time, though, was all the costs associated with that lift station should be allocated to Terra Vista and not the remaining of the ratepayers. Missy, do you know, were we ever able to implement that?
Yep, we sure did. So there's a separate billing code for any property or user that uses that lift station. Yep.
That's all I needed. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then the other lift station in Southdale, we don't directly pay for any of that maintenance. That's the city of Madison.
Madison owns it and operates it, but we do pay. I believe we are planning to do some upgrades to that lift station, and that's been included in the CIP. But yeah, we do. There's a cost share. I think it's 2/3 Madison, 1/3 Fitchburg, something like that.
Okay. And do we know how old that station is, and what sort of maintenance schedule we should expect for lift stations?
I don't know the age of that station. It is quite a bit older. Mm-hmm. Hence the large upgrade that's forthcoming on it.
All right. Any other questions on utilities? I guess water and sewer utilities. Otherwise, we can move on to stormwater utility.
So significant accomplishments in 2025 in stormwater. We were awarded the EPA Community Grant for the Crescent Road Stormwater Improvements Project. We completed the GIS inventory of our rural culverts and stormwater maintenance agreements. We implemented online erosion control and stormwater management permit application process, and we completed the dredging and repairs to the Quarry Hill Pond and Techlands infiltration basin. Notable initiatives for 2026, we're looking to complete construction of the Crescent Road Stormwater Improvements Project, analyze stormwater utility rate coverage and implement new rates if needed, complete dredging and retrofit project for existing stormwater facilities, and looking to implement a GIS-based work order system similar to what Adam had mentioned for forestry. And then looking to our significant budget changes from 2025 to 2026, we added $5,000 for inlet repair by others. We added $7,500 for maintenance of street sweeper and pump. And we added $1,500 to pilot a GPS software to improve efficiency of street sweeping routes.
Questions? Yeah, Logan.
So with the $1,500 to pilot the new GPS software to improve the efficiency of street sweeping routes, can you talk a little bit more about what we're hoping to gain out of that efficiency? Is that will it pay for itself in the savings, hopefully, with the efficiency of the routes?
Absolutely. This is something I'm kind of excited about because right now we have a map that's highlighted, and every day the street sweeper goes out and whatever streets they clean for the day, they come back and highlight the map and then sit down at a computer and implement how much debris is picked up. So we've been working with Dakota, our GIS specialist, and looking to put an iPad within the street sweeper, and basically as the street sweeper's driving, it's marking down the streets that are getting done. And then at the end of the route, up pops a survey, so the driver can implement the amount of water, the debris that he empties out during the day, and then all that gets recorded. And basically any driver can then, look at the map and see what was done the previous day, how long. We have warnings that can pop up saying, hey, it's been more than 30 days since you hit this neighborhood. We can go back and kind of get the areas. We can now kind of track to what neighborhoods we see most of the debris. It may be this neighborhood because the trees are a lot more mature than these newer neighborhoods. So we might want to hit that once or twice more in a year. So we're looking to actually implement it here shortly within maybe the next month or so, just as long as the weather maybe holds off, just to see how it works. And then really next year we'll hopefully be in full swing with it. So looking to pilot it a little bit here this year, and then next year get more into it.
And then do you have just kind of a quick idea of how much time this would save a driver in a day? Like, can they stay out 30 more minutes and cover more ground in a day because they don't have to come back and pull out the highlighter and dig around in the junk drawer for it?
Oh, absolutely. And also as part of this, it can also tell you the most efficient route. It can tell you, hey, I want to do this neighborhood. Well, do this street first, then this and that, versus the driver kind of guessing, what street would be the best to start at. The software kind of dictates the route then. So yeah, the efficiencies we're hoping is where we see a lot of the improvement with the street sweeping.
Other questions? Okay. Moving on to building and grounds.
Significant accomplishments in 2025 for building and grounds. We remodeled the library technology room, including removing the cabinets, countertops, dry erase board, portion of a wall and glass, and then we repaired the walls and repainted. We trained the new custodian for the hub and public works maintenance facility. We updated City Hall air handler software and controls. We installed 4 EV chargers, 2 at the library and 2 at City Hall for city-owned electric vehicles. Then we installed room upgrades at City Hall, including meeting room blinds and room access controls. And then notable initiatives for 2026, we're looking to replace the boiler at City Hall, replace air handler and condenser at Senior Center, and then hire an additional custodian and develop a staffing plan for the police services facility, custodial and maintenance services. Then significant budget changes from 2025 to 2026. We're looking to add operating costs for the public or police facility based on the current estimates. Remove $7,500 for door openers at City Hall. This was a one-time expense. Please note the door openers were not installed in 2025 and will be included with the City Hall remodel project. And then lastly, we added a new permanent full-time custodial position to support the police facility. And then just kind of to note with the police facilities custodian, even though the facility is kind of tracking to be open in 2027, we wanted to bring this position on in 2026 just to kind of get them accustomed to the city, the facilities, our procedures for cleaning. But then also with FMLA and people vacations, it would also help kind of fill in for those gaps when we have someone out for an extended period of time. And then obviously when 2027 rolls around, this person would be able to jump into the police services facility right away.
Logan.
So when you say you want to hire this person in 26, just ballpark, are we looking at January 1st or December 31st, or, kind of where in the year do you think that is realistically possible?
Yeah, hiring it won't happen January 1st, 2026. There's time to obviously post the position, interviews, and then if the person's coming from a different job, there's time for them to provide or notice to the previous employer to leave and then to come on board. So I would, if we got the posting out in January, that would be pretty fast. And then March, April, May, somewhere in that time frame.
Oh, Micah.
This is similar to my other question on the bus. How are we accounting for the operating costs for the new facility with the fact that it's not actually opening until 2027?
Yep, so same answer. So because the funding for that was funded through the vehicle registration fee, we wanted to make sure we accounted for it for a full year so that that money was available. So it is 100% included in the 2026 budget for a full year. I would caution you against reallocating that for something else that's an ongoing cost. But if you did want to reallocate it for one-time things, that could be a reasonable option.
I would never think to do an ongoing cost.
Thank you.
Disapproving looks.
No, approving looks now.
All right. Any other questions on building and grounds? Okay. Does that mean Tim is done? Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we can move on to administration. Misty, Adam is going to do this.
Am I doing the council one too? Oh, I didn't know that.
And court.
Oh.
I can jump in if you'd like me to.
We'll see how this goes. Yay. All right, so accomplishments here for the elected officials budget include updating the EMS agreement with the city and town of Verona. They passed the dark sky ordinance. We launched some housing initiatives, including building homes, strengthening our Fitchburg community. We're adopting new minor zoning code changes. We did create a community and equity advisory committee. We invested in additional electric vehicles. We accepted the city's sustainability plan. We approved funding to update the city's housing plan, which is ongoing. We adopted the vehicle registration fee, and we approved the construction of the new police facility. And once again, we are hopefully opening the hub neighborhood center on Trace Way here, hopefully in November. Initiatives for 26 will begin the revision of the comp plan, and Deanna had talked about that a little bit in her presentation. Continue the implementation of housing initiatives, explore the creation of a fire EMS district with neighboring municipalities, enhance the city's communication and outreach efforts, and then also for the Parks project, replace Kids Crossing Playground, which is currently in design right now. Significant budget changes from 25 to 26 is increasing the training budget from about $5,000 to $5,450 to attend additional trainings. Any questions on your budget? Feel free to move on. Administration, I think, is next, right, Misty? Okay, good. I got that one right. Accomplishments here in 25 is, once again, we implemented the vehicle registration fee, which has been talked about here a lot. We're going to be implementing the police impact fee ordinance. That's something that's going to be forthcoming here in the coming months. We created and implemented a council handbook. We coordinated EV and pool vehicle purchases throughout 2025. We negotiated a successor agreement to the police union contract. We updated the Fitchburg EMS intergovernmental agreement with our neighboring municipalities, and then we implemented a new council meeting start time. Notable items for 2026 include adopting and implementing a communication plan, and then adopting and implementing a strategic plan. And significant budget changes from 25 to 26. We included $500 for maintenance and repair of the administration hybrid miniature or minivan. We added $350 in gasoline for the minivan, and then we increased the paid parental leave from 2 weeks to 3 weeks, which I think Misty has. There it is. It has a sheet that goes along with that. Any questions?
So the cost for the parental leave is $10,000-ish. Would it be safe to say that would be the cost again if we wanted to add an additional week in the future? It's going to be around the same.
Yep. So how that's calculated is there are certain departments that would have to have those hours backfilled. So like if a finance person went out on paid parental leave, we probably would just use it within our existing staff. But public safety in particular, and then public works would likely to have to be backfilled with overtime. And so the cost of this is that backfilled overtime, not for 100% of the time. I think we assumed 75% of the time. But yes, to your question, let's say you want to go from 3 to 4, it would be in that same ballpark, we expect.
I guess we can move on to the municipal court budget.
Municipal court accomplishments in 2025 included updating their TIPS court software. It's a software that they use, and then implementing a TRAX, which is a computer-generated citations software that, in conjunction with the building inspection department for citations. Initiatives in 26 include implementing handouts in Spanish, discussing parking citations interface software with the police and our IT department, and then implementing that TRAX citation software with the Public Works for issuing citations as well. Budget changes from 25 to 26. There's a decrease in court penalties and fines revenue that is redirected to the Community Wellbeing Fund. It goes from 12% to 7%. Increased fine and forfeitures based upon recent trends. We increased the annual professional organizational dues by $70. And then a change in our computer software supplies being reclassified to reduce the amount by $70. Any questions?
Can you talk about the change to the well-being fund?
I can.
Okay.
So the Community Wellbeing Fund was established a handful of years ago now, where a portion of the fines and forfeitures that we collect through the municipal court process, instead of being used to fund the court, it's diverted into the Community Wellbeing Fund. From that Community Wellbeing Fund, currently what we're paying for out of there is additional H&I grants. So the amount has changed. I think it started at like 3% and then it went to some other percent, and last year it was up to 12%. Proposing to drop it down to 7% so that the amount that we're expecting to be diverted meets the additional H&I grants that we expect to spend. So not diverting more money than we need to, but diverting just the amount that we need to get that grant funding accomplished.
Okay, so we're projecting an increase in the forfeitures and fines, and we want to keep the amount that we divert to the Wellbeing Fund roughly equivalent to what it had been?
Yes.
Okay. Other questions? No. So we are moving on to the wrap-up and next steps phase. I presume that's Misty.
That is. So wanted to talk about a couple other things that are included in the document as well. So at the very back, starting on page 409, this is the additional positions that department heads have basically put on your radar so that you know what those additional staff needs would probably look like in the next 4 years. So these are from 2027 to 2030. It's not the same level of detail as the 2026 ones because really we just kind of want to get it on your radar. And you'll notice it's a relatively large list of positions. So we will continue to be kind of hearing from them and hopefully knocking some of these off the list as time goes on. But at least wanted to point that out. So just because it doesn't look like there's a lot of staff requests for 2026, it doesn't mean that the requests aren't there. We just had to prioritize. So high priority ones were first, and then these are everything else. Do you have a question?
What is BT priority?
Baker Tilly. So when Baker Tilly
got it.
did the staffing study, a couple of the positions were identified in there. Also include, so that's a lot of pages. Also included in the document on page 489 is the adopted schedule. So I know you all adopted this, but just to kind of reiterate what our next steps would be. So at the next Common Council meeting on the 14th, there'll be a public hearing on the mayor's proposed budget. A few days later is when amendments are due, so that is Thursday, October 16th at 4:30. I emailed out the Word doc of the form for you to use. Again, I'd love for you to talk to myself, to administration, to the department heads if you're thinking about doing amendments, just so we all can kind of talk through them and make sure we're on the same page. Those are due at that point. We'll then turn them around and get a packet out. The committee of the whole meeting in October was moved, so the 5 Tuesdays in September has been a curse and a blessing. So we moved the October committee of the whole meeting by a week, so that is now on October 29th. At that committee of the whole meeting is where we will go through all of the council proposed amendments, get all of the discussion out, get all of your questions out, make sure you completely understand what the amendment is proposing. Because then when we get to the next council meeting, November 11th, we'll have another public hearing so the public can weigh in on all of the council amendments, and then council will vote on them. So you'll go through your normal meeting, just like normal. At the end of the meeting, we'll then have the budget process on top of your normal meeting. There are very specific restrictions, so how long we can talk, how many times you can talk, all of that is very organized. So again, we want to get as much of that discussion out in the committee of the whole, so that when we get to the council meeting, you can make amendments if you want to, you can say your final decision on it, you can make a couple of comments, but not have a full-blown discussion at that point. And then hopefully at the end of the night, we will pass a budget that meets levy limits. Before we get to that too, there is a resolution that was referred out for those special rules. So the ordinances outline what our specific process is supposed to be. There's that resolution that would add a couple extra steps, which basically give you the chance to revisit any of those amendments. So if you get through all the amendments and you don't have a budget that meets levy limits, that's not okay. So this special process would allow you to revisit any of those amendments that were previously discussed and voted upon. We won't be taking anything new off the floor, because the point is we want the public to know what we're talking about. We want everything to be vetted, so it's not new ideas, but just if you need to change a vote or amend something to meet levy limits, it's that opportunity so that we can still get it done on that night instead of having to do it later. I guess any questions on process and next steps?
The October 29th committee of the whole meeting, are Halloween costumes required or just optional?
Trick-or-treating candy probably would be provided if there's costumes.
Excellent.
Yeah, we could probably make that happen.
I will caution against the candy. In my reporter days, I remember writing a story about somebody in Madison getting in trouble with an ethics committee for bringing candy to a meeting in our neighbors to the north in Madison. So
that's true.
I might caution against that. I did have one actual question, though. When we have the public hearing on November 11th, just for the public's sake here, if we can't submit any sort of amendments from the floor, is that kind of, what would the most helpful comments from the public be, other than maybe vote yes or vote no?
Yep. So if the public has opinions on what should or should not be included in the budget, they really should come to the next council meeting and provide that guidance at that point. It's a couple of days before you have to submit your amendment, so that if there is an idea that you want to kind of put forward formally, you would have that information and be able to do it. So that's the meeting that really would be more beneficial to come to. The second public hearing is just to provide comments on the council amendments. So if a council amendment is proposed and they have feelings one way or the other, that would be the chance to share those feelings instead.
Thank you.
Yep. Also included in the document is the proposed fee schedule. So I know you've heard quite a few departments talking about different fee changes. All of the fee schedule items are included in here as well, and we tried to highlight on yellow anything that was changed, but we did include that as a significant change too. And then the council amendment form is in here too, but please use the Word doc. So with that, I just want to thank everybody. This has been a very interesting meeting. You guys have asked great questions. I feel like it was very productive. So on behalf of the finance department and all of the department heads that put all the document together, we really appreciate your interest.
I guess we kind of would like to thank the finance department as well for all the help you provide the mayor in making this budget. This is not a small undertaking, and it happens each and every year for about 11 months of the year, right? All right. So we are moving on to our action items. I'm looking for a motion to approve Resolution R-17725, adopting the 2026 annual city operating budget.
I move to approve.
All right. Is there any additional discussion? If not, I will call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R-17725, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Moving on, announcements. We have nothing listed here, but I guess we just have our normally scheduled finance meetings from now on. So our next one will be Tuesday the 14th, right?
Correct. Yep. 5 Tuesdays in September.
All right. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Any discussion? All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 7:49 p.m.